All right, let's talk about a single side toss. Single side toss looks like so. Right? We can catch it in any number of configurations. We can catch it with two hands up by our shoulder. We can catch it with one hand down lower, bring it down. One of those movements that's good to know, one of those movements that might be best suited for a situation like a ripple line where we're not trying to really dial in the technique, but a great thing to learn nonetheless because it teaches us about tossing the rifle and grabbing on the upper hand guard, using the same hand to throw and to catch. So when we go to learn this movement, what we're really doing is we're popping the rifle forward, and what we're trying to do is create enough tension in our forearm and enough wind up and strength here that when we go to lift the rifle, we have the strongest grip that we can. So when we do that, we want to make sure that all of our fingers are squeezing the handguard and that our forearm is forming a perpendicular line into the rifle. This also allows us to standardize where this goes from person to person. If we just kind of say, hey, bring the rifle down and toss it up, we don't really have a whole lot of definition there. So we go to prep the rifle. From here, the majority of the lift is coming from the shoulder and the elbow bending. So at the same time that we're lifting up, we're bending the elbow. And this is what's going to give us that momentum to allow the rifle to come out and complete that solid single rotation. In fact, if you did just that and you lifted and bent the elbow at the same time with nothing else, you'd achieve about half of a rotation of a side toss. To get the second half of that rotation, so this is just basic math, right? If raising and bending the elbow and letting the hand go open gives us half, something must have to give us the other part of that spin. It's going to be the wrist and the fingers. As we go to release that rifle, not only are we going to bend the elbow and lift the arm from the shoulder, we're also going to use our thumb and our wrist and our fingers to pull back on the rifle. And when we do that, we have that pulling back motion. We're going to think about kind of pulling down and allowing our fingers as a hook to give the rifle the extra momentum. So really what's happening in the single side toss is we're not throwing it from the ground and letting it take the entire time. We are lifting it up to about here, pulling back on it so it completes the other half rotation before we catch it again, either on the upper handguard or above the shoulder, however we want to do it. Now, let's talk about possibilities for the catch. After we've dialed in how much force to use on both the lift and the pull back, we need to talk about what can we do. Well, obviously what I just demonstrated, we can get it back in our hand at the exact same place and we can return it to our original position, or we can even try to return it to order arms, right? But one of the best ways that we can learn to catch this, because it's going to teach us how to control the rifle really well in terms of just before the release, is we can learn to catch this above our shoulder. And as opposed to just catching with one hand, we can also involve our second hand. So how are we going to do this? Well, first thing we're going to think about is lifting a little bit higher and pulling a little bit higher, and therefore the rotation, as opposed to occurring here, is going to occur up here. Then we want to think about getting immediately upon the release the arm, elbow, shoulder all in line with our hand, making that taco-shaped grip, and we're going to aim to let the rifle drop naturally into the hand just between balance points 1 and 2. So when we do that, we raise up, we let it go a little bit higher, and we're trying to find that position where we're under the rifle. So our wrist down into our elbow, therefore supported by the shoulder, is what's taking the brunt of the impact. And at the same time, we're finding this third balance point, which is the ideal place to allow the rifle to rest. We can involve the other hand by allowing it to come up. And as we finish the toss, coming into support, grasping with the thumb on the ring of the receiver, making sure that we are using that good internal grip on the rifle to really control and lock that rifle into position above the shoulder. From here, it's up to your creativity to figure out how to come down from that. But that's kind of how we would approach the single side toss. Again, this is one of those that's good for you to learn as an individual. And in a team context, we might recommend placing it in a ripple line. Everyone ripples here, everyone ripples here, everyone ripples here, you know. Doing something where we don't have to necessarily time out the exact technique, because there is a little bit of variance in how we're going to release and what's going to feel good for us versus maybe our teammate next to us. So, single side toss, give it a shot and have fun.